Welcome to Buffalo's Healthy Community Show. I'm Phil Haberstroh, your host from the Wellness Institute of Greater Buffalo. We've got a terrific show for you here today, so maybe you even want to grab a pen and pencil just in case, because we've got some information that we want to share that we think is really important to you. We're going to start the show off today with a good friend of mine, Dr. Jonathan Yelichuk. Jonathan, how are you?
Good morning. I'm fantastic,
Great
Phil. How are
to
you?
have you with us. Jonathan has had a very interesting career. He has background in exercise physiology. He's a doctor of chiropractic, and he's also the author of the book, Your Action Potential. Jonathan, it's great to have you here in Buffalo. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's kind of an interesting way that we all came about getting here, but the universe gets us to places where we need to go. And we're up here doing a lot of work, getting people healthy, and it's an amazing thing. But I started my career in international finance and marketing.
Wow.
Yeah, and then found out that stuff really made sense to me and didn't particularly fulfill what I was looking for. Right. And so I started really looking into how to help people in greater and greater ways. Went into exercise physiology to get people healthy, and I thought it was a huge demand that wasn't being met. And what it evolved into was a doctor of chiropractic and actually my book. Okay. That's the abridged version of several years.
Tell the viewers then, if you could, a little bit about the book and what's maybe the key message that's in the book that we can share with the viewers.
Your action potential has a couple of different meanings, but coming from an exercise phys background, an action potential happens in a cell where a little bit of energy is added and then you get a huge amount of energy out. And motivation with people, I think, is exactly the same way. I really enjoyed reading books about neurology and things like that and how they apply to life. And some of them were such huge, arduous tasks that I didn't even imagine they would be worthwhile. So I kind of made an abridged version, so I joke around that it's the Cliff Notes. And they also have some lessons to be learned, but they're meant in a very funny way.
Yeah, and one of the things that we want the audience to know, too, is Dr. Yelichuk, Dr. J, as we refer to him as a friend, is going to be making a donation, and we're going to have copies of this book in Buffalo area libraries. So look for this. It's coming up, and it's something I think all of the public would enjoy and benefit from. Dr. J, we've had some conversations before the show today about the obesity crisis in America. Share some thoughts, if you would, on the audience, with the audience, on how you see that.
I think everybody sees it as a crisis, and it is. With we're working on the solution, and we have a solution we've been implementing, but I really believe that it starts with motivation and so forth. I think that, we joke around and call it the 1,000-foot hole. When people are in a 1,000-foot hole, it's dark. Yeah. So we want to do things to elevate their life up and bring them up, whether it's their healthy body, healthy mind, or even their healthy finances, to start working with them. And when they get out of that 1,000-foot hole, they can start doing things to thrive instead of survive.
So is it your sense that it's the first step? If you got to take that first step if you're going to climb the mountain? Is that kind of part of what you see from the motivational standpoint?
Well, everybody has to have their aha moment, and that's why we're here in Buffalo doing a lot of seminars and speaking engagements. And I've never known what a Tim Hortons is until now, so we do a lot of meetings in Tim Hortons, and apparently there's a lot of them. In the Boston area, we have Dunkin' Donuts, but as far as finding places to meet, it seems that Tim Hortons is the kind of every third street, and we've been doing a lot of work there. But I think it's the awareness, and it's an awareness with a plan, and that's what we've put together. Right. Everybody knows what they should do, and with the motivation and so forth, it's like you're putting training wheels on somebody's life.
A lot of people get started, and they take that first step, and we've seen in the science of behavior change, the idea of health coaching has emerged. Can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, every professional team has a coach, so I don't see why something as complicated as your body, you shouldn't have a coach. Right. And so when implementing, a lot of people, I just say to get to the right coach, and you want to make sure they're working. We work with people and call it your why. The reason why you're doing something is I think more important than the end result, because it'll change as you go. But if you don't know why, like with people working on weight loss, if they're looking to lose pounds on the scale, when they lose the pounds, the journey's over. And we look at it, you know, if you lose the weight, what do you want to do? Well, I want to, you know, ride a bike for the first time ever because I was almost always too big since the time I was 7 years old. Or I want to run a marathon. I mean, it gets to be that people start, once they're out of that 1,000-foot hole, their bodies start acting better and they have more energy, so they're not depressed and they actually want to do things.
So the coaches are a support mechanism, and I know you talked about biking. Yeah. We've been doing a great job here in Buffalo. We were just named a bronze community in the nation as a bikeable community. Do you see environmental supports, bike lanes, parks? How do they fit into the picture?
I think it all works in conjunction, and it really is having the environment for healthy activities. And I think it all coordinates because when there's more, you know, more like thoughts about it and more people are doing it, you can connect. And what we do is link arms with people such as yourself in these areas. And while we're taking our healthy habits, which is a core part of our program, it's to have places to do it. So, I mean, they all work together. I believe that it starts with each individual person, you know, as in with my book or our programs, that they just start to do what they need to do.
One of the places I know that you and I have talked about also too that's a very important place for delivering health promotion programs is the workplace. Could you comment on that for us?
Well, a healthy workplace is, you know, unless a lot of people, that's where they spend a lion's share of their time. So a healthy workplace is something that takes a portion of their life, and once we get that portion, it can kind of roll over into other things, and where people are like the 5 people they know most. So in their workplace, if we can make that kind of a fishbowl of health, they're going to pick up healthy habits. Well, one of my mentors said, you know, sometimes when you're in a polluted fishbowl, you can't do anything about it. So when all of a sudden the people in work, and it's making micro environments that really base around health, and then people start. So instead of in the you know, room with, you know, they keep snacks and so forth, they might have different types of options. You know, instead of a soda, they may grab a water. So it's incremental changes that are done daily. People think typically like they don't want to start anything until January because they all of a sudden feel like they have to burn their old house and move into a new house that's, you know, sanitary and only has nuts and grains and berries. It isn't like that. So
as we've talked through here, I'm pulling some key things out. We're talking about small steps. We're talking about health coaching as a support. We're talking about environmental support. Those are all critical pieces. I want to kind of jump back on your exercise physiology background. Never too late to start to being physically active?
No. One of the real factors in aging is if you don't use it, you lose it. And I mean, sorry to be, you know, as basic as that, but it's true even neurologically. You know, the more you use your brain, you build new bridges and synapses. So I think that as long as nobody's going to come out at 90 and all of a sudden to do a CrossFit competition, but you can do incremental and bone densities and, you know, digestion and things like that are all cardiovascular health. They're all revolving around if you don't use it, you lose it. So if your body's challenged in a healthy way, and your body will do whatever you tell it to do the lion's share of the time. So if you tell it to eat all the time and lay down, it's going to hibernate.
Any thoughts from your professional background and experience for parents? We hear a lot about children in school and the overweight and obesity crisis with children. A thought there?
It's twofold. We like to start with the children, so we have outreach programs where we do talking engagements, and another one that I have found is we make the parents' health in our program about the family. So the meals that they do sit down with, we get those different vegetables, portion sizes, healthy habits involved, like don't leave the TV on, eat it at a table. So we work those things in because it's outside community and also the family unit. And once you're sitting down and everybody's making better choices, it's a household thing.
So I think there what I'm going to extract for us is the culture of wellness. It can be in the workplace, it can be in the home, and it certainly can be in the community. Well, I want to thank Dr. Yelichek for being with us today. He is heading up to Take Shape for Life along with his colleague Donna Smaldone, and the Wellness Institute is partnering with them here in Western New York. They do have a website. We'll put that up for you if you want to visit that and learn more about that program. We're going to take a brief little break right now, but I want you to be sure to come back because I have a very special guest. You've met her before, Teresa Jackson, the outstanding registered dietitian in our community. She's going to be here to help us with some very basic information on good nutrition. So just take a moment and come back with us, and thanks for being with us.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Buffalo's Healthy Community Show, filmed right here at the Apollo Media Center in Buffalo, New York. Very excited to have my second guest with us today, Teresa Jackson. Teresa has recently joined the staff of the Wellness Institute as our Director of Communications and Social Media, but she's really here today for her passion and love for wellness around nutrition. Teresa, it's great to have you back with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And today we're going to be talking about the basics of nutrition because it's so important for people to understand those fundamentals. Where are we going to start, Teresa?
There are so many things you can talk about when you're talking proper nutrition, but I think for the most part, most people understand what kinds of foods they should be choosing and what kind of foods they should be choosing less often or not at all. They have that knowledge, but they're still not making either the right choices all the time. But we find that most people tend to choose the right foods, but maybe even eat too much of them. So I really wanted to talk today about proper portion sizes and making sure that we're not eating too much of the foods that we love.
So the moderation rule fits in here?
Moderation is always key. We want to make sure everyone can appreciate and enjoy the foods that they love, but at the same time, not too much.
Let me go to a place, it's kind of personal, but I come home at the end of the day. I did have a little breakfast, I did have a little lunch, but I'm famished. What's a good starting choice in terms of a snack or something that I could have when I get home?
Anytime that you choose a snack, you should be always choosing either a fruit, a vegetable, or a protein source, a lean protein source.
Okay.
Ideally, even mixing those things together. Almonds are a great choice. I actually brought some almonds with me today. This is a really great example, too, of a healthy food that you can eat too much of. Almonds have really healthy fats in them that naturally occur. They're full of fiber, they're full of vitamins, so they fill you up and they give you energy. However, because they have those naturally occurring fats in them, you could sit here, this is a very large bag here of almonds. You could sit down and open this bag and just help yourself to handful after handful of almonds. You want to be careful. You can eat too much of a good thing. One serving of nuts, or in this case almonds, is about 23 almonds. That does not sound like a lot. But what I did is I went ahead and portioned out 23 almonds, counted them out, and put them in a separate container. It's about a handful.
Can you pour them in my handful?
Yes.
Here? No, I'm not going to eat these on air. I'm lucky that I'll get these after the show. But folks, that's really something pretty interesting. And when you look at it, and so a single handful of almonds would be
one single handful is one serving, and you're going to get about 160 calories in that handful of nuts. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's better to have the handful of almonds with all those fiber and nutrients and good fats and protein in it than to eat a handful or 1 ounce serving of something like potato chips, which doesn't have the nutrition value in it, for about the same amount of calories.
So does it make sense, Teresa? I've read some science in this area, but I know you'll have a good feel for this. A lot of people suggest several small meals a day. And so would it be a good thing to have a little bag of almonds in my desk at work and a little handful during the day. Is that a good way to do
That's
things?
a great way. It's going to keep your appetite at bay so that when you get home and you're ravenous, you don't just sit down and start eating anything in sight. But it's also going to keep your blood sugar stable, which is what cues that appetite to look for food. So when you have that handful of almonds on your way home from work, you're going to drive past all the fast food restaurants. You're not going to be ravenous when you get home. You're going to be able to sit down and enjoy a meal with your family after prepping it together, of course. So it's really going to stave off that hunger and help you to make the right choices. Eating those frequent meals throughout the day keeps your blood sugar stable, keeps your metabolism going so that you have energy, so that your body is functioning as it should be, and then you are less likely to make those bad choices.
So we're talking about first good choices, and then we're talking about smart portions, okay?
Right.
And then further, you're saying that the small meals a day thing will help us to manage our diet and our appetite. Let's go to often what is considered the most important meal of the day, breakfast.
Sure.
Now, self-confession here, I'm not a big breakfast eater. At my Rotary meeting, that's about where I get the only breakfast, at my Sunrise Rotary meeting. But what are a couple of good fundamental choices, particularly for somebody who doesn't want to sit down and make a formal breakfast, but it's kind of a snacker at breakfast time?
Well, I think a lot of people are limited in their thinking with breakfast that it has to be breakfast foods. You can have a piece of fish and brown rice and vegetables for breakfast. You want to think about what other cultures eat for breakfast as well. So don't think that every morning you need to sit down to a traditional American breakfast. What you want to choose to eat for breakfast really is up to you, what your family likes and your personal tastes, but good choices always center around a whole grain, so something like whole wheat toast or a whole wheat English muffin, even sprouted breads if you like those. Those are breads that you find in your freezer that are sprouted, so they have some of the enzymes still in the bread. You may want to choose that whole grain source, and then you need a protein source, so something like an egg, Greek yogurt, something that will give you
I love
protein
yogurt.
and fat and keep that appetite at bay while getting your metabolism going. And a piece of fruit is a really easy way to grab something out the door.
I know one of the things that I do with the fruit is the night before I'll like to make slices of it and grab a couple of those. That's a good way to get nutrition.
Absolutely.
And again, abate the hunger pangs that sometimes can treat us.
Right.
A lot has been said today about serving sizes. I remember an unregistered dietitian like yourself once told me that my fist was a good way of looking at, for most foods, a serving. Does that still hold true?
That's about average because your body knows what it needs. Your body's size, your body is different than my body, so you require more
Thank you.
calories than I would, and your hand is larger than mine. So your fist is a really good way to know what one serving of most foods are. However, the other way to know what a serving size is to look on the food label. So any food that is packaged requires a food label, and that will tell you what the recommended serving size is for someone eating 2,000 calories. If the food does not have a label on it, you can use measuring cups, you can use your teaspoons and tablespoons to eyeball things, but one really fun thing to do too is to use a tennis ball. A tennis ball is a really great way to know what 1 cup looks like. So if you are reading a recipe or you're trying to watch your calories and you know that you should only have 1 cup of pasta with dinner, preferably whole wheat pasta, but if you're a traditionalist and it's got to be white pasta, just 1 cup serving is all you should be eating. So you're going to want to take a look at your dinner plate and make sure that about the size of a tennis ball is what you've served yourself for pasta. And then you want to load up on something else like salad, your vegetables.
And the tennis ball reminds us that we should be physically active.
You should be active as well. So I actually keep a tennis ball on my desk at work for those reasons. And it's really great yoga tool too if you're into yoga.
You've got some other tools here that I'm not super familiar with, but not being the kitchen person. But what else do you have here to help people understand portion?
It's really great to think about portion sizes all over again. Sometimes we think we know what a tablespoon looks like, but you need to get out your teaspoons and tablespoons, your measuring cups. You might be surprised at how much cereal you're pouring yourself or how much salad dressing you're using. So I did bring a bottle of blue cheese with me today because we're in Buffalo and we know that everybody loves blue cheese dressing with their wings. And what I did is I portioned out 1 serving of this blue cheese dressing into a little ramekin. This may or may not be what you get with your wings when you order them at a restaurant. But this is what 2 tablespoons looks like in a ramekin. In these 2 tablespoons, there's 12 grams of fat, which is pretty high. This is a salad dressing. You would want to choose it as a special treat, and 120 calories. So this is a really high-fat, high-calorie choice, and that's why you want to make sure you're not eating too much of it.
And that, that leads to like when we're in the restaurants and smart portions in the restaurants. I know a lot of people ask for their dressing on the side, and it usually about that size of a piece and that. But when you're in a restaurant, what options do you have there for portion control?
Restaurants are really great about listening to what their customers need. So if you have a special request, feel free to talk to your server or the manager about what you need, and they will make concessions for you. But the number one thing you need to know is when you go to a restaurant, the portion sizes there are huge. They want to keep you coming back. They want to give you good value for your money, so they give you a lot of food. Typically, the plate sizes there are 10 inches or larger. Back in 1970, plate sizes were about 8 or 9 inches, and we were much smaller people then. So the size of the plate, actually, studies have shown that our eyes are what make us choose the foods that we eat and dictate how much we eat. And so if you are looking at a large platter of food, you're more likely to eat more calories off that plate. So maybe choosing a half portion, eating half of it and taking half home for another meal, or asking for a smaller plate at that mealtime is really going to help you consume less calories at your dinner.
I've noticed some people too, when they go out, maybe they will have a dessert if they've been following your advice here, and it's always a good thing for them to 2 people to split the dessert.
Correct.
And that saves you money.
It saves you money. Food is social as well as
Right.
being, for fuel and nutrition. So you don't want to not enjoy dessert every once in a while. But if you do order it, try to make a choice, something that has fruit in it or something that may be lower calorie but still sweet, and then share it with everybody at your table, and you'll all get to try.
Okay, we did sort of the morning thing, and we talked about during the day, small little snacks during the day. Smart portions, the half plate idea at dinner time, and maybe you should talk a little about the half plate idea.
Sure. Half plate is a very easy way to look at what you've served on your plate. Make sure that half of what's on your dinner plate, again 9 inches or less, is fruits and vegetables mostly. So at dinner time it would more likely be vegetables, a salad, steamed vegetables, something that you're making for the whole family. And then another quarter of your plate would be your lean protein source, that whether that's chicken, fish, turkey, beef, tofu, whatever you like is your protein source. And then the last remaining quarter would be where your whole grain should be. So that would be where you would have brown rice or quinoa or some newer grains that are coming out.
Quinoa?
Quinoa, yeah, which is actually an ancient grain. It's not new, but it's new to most people's diets.
I'm ancient and I didn't know about it.
It's wonderful. It's very high in protein. It's a whole grain, so it fills you up. It tastes great, and it's very easy to make. So quinoa, spelled Quinoa. If you're looking for it in the store, try it. It's really great.
Let's then go to it's after dinner, and we've watched our favorite show on the local television after we had our physical activity session, of course. But how about that late night snack? Is it harmful, or can we be smart about it in portion wise?
I think it's best to try to avoid eating late at night. However, you mentioned working out. If your workout is in the evening, then you may need something after your workout, something like chocolate milk or something that has a protein and a fat, little bit of sugar in it to kind of bring your blood sugar back up, replenish those muscles, and help you get to sleep at night. People like to do bedtime snacks as a ritual. If you are a snacker and that is very important to you to continue, you want to make sure, again, you're watching your portion sizes, that if you're going to have some cookies, that you maybe sit down with 2 cookies on a plate and a cup of tea or a glass of water or a glass of milk, but that you don't bring the entire container of cookies with you to the couch, because we tend to eat very mindlessly. We don't think about what we're putting in our mouth, and especially if you're sitting and watching TV or interacting with your family members, your arm may be reaching over without you even knowing it and eating more. So you want to make sure you leave the container in the kitchen, you serve yourself, and you bring it to wherever you are and enjoy those 2 cookies or whatever else it is you've chosen.
So that idea of, I've seen it written about, of mindfulness, that's consciously thinking about when we're eating and why we're eating and so on and so forth. Is that fair?
It's so important, because you may recall a time where you've driven somewhere and not realized how you got there, or don't remember driving there, just because it's automatic to you to go to the same place every day. The same thing happens when we eat. If you sit down and just eat and don't even pay attention to what it is that's on your plate, what it tastes like, what it smells like, how it makes you feel, even taking the time to chew your food, sit down and digest and enjoy it, you miss out on that. Your body's hunger cues are not quelled, and you're going to continue to look for other things to eat because you haven't satisfied those hormones that kick in after about 20 minutes of eating. Most people don't even sit for 20 minutes and eat. Those hormones tell you to stop eating. When you're more mindful about what you eat, you actually eat less, you make healthier choices, you digest it better, and then for the rest of the day you're making healthier choices as well.
And the idea of portion control, is there any sort of good general rule that we could leave our viewers with today that you think would be a good thing for them as they try to manage their nutrition in a healthy way?
I think the general rule is really to make sure that you are reading the food label on any food that you're preparing, and to pay attention to the serving size and what is suggested as a serving size. Again, those serving sizes are for a 2,000 calorie diet, which some people don't require. Some people require much less calories, others require much more. So you want to talk to a registered dietitian or a health professional, find out how many calories that your body requires for your level of activity, your age, your physical condition, and then you want to start paying attention to those food labels. That's why they're there. They're there to help you navigate what's in your food, how much of it's in there, and what one choice may be a better choice than others.
That's great. Well, again, Teresa, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and my poor little stomach. I don't know, after all these sessions with Teresa, you'd think I'd be skinny as a rail. But anyways, we want to thank you for tuning in today to Buffalo's Healthy Community Show. Don't forget to visit Dr. Jonathan Yelachek's website. He's got information there for you about the Take Shape for Life program and other good resources. And certainly to visit the Wellness Institute website. We too have information there. Teresa's been working with us to strengthen our information on nutrition, and so we're here to serve the community, and we want to thank again the staff here at the Apollo Media Center for hosting us today. Have a great day.